Most of us have to deal with some sort of shade somewhere in our garden. Now, here in my jungle garden, the plants here, they're right at home in the shade. It resembles the jungle floor, so they're perfect. Edibles, though, are a bit of a different story. And if you're like me, you like to cram as many things as possible into whatever space you have. So wouldn't it be great if there were some edible crops that actually didn't mind the shade? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 12 of those crops who will do just fine in partial shade. Coming up. Now, it's true that most vegetables like to be bathed in sunlight at least 6 hours per day. But there are a few that will not only survive in partially shaded locations, but can thrive. Now, I'm not talking about the shady side of your house that gets zero sun all day long, but maybe if it gets morning sun for 2 to 4 hours, or afternoon sun for 2 to 4 hours, or even 4 to 6 hours of filtered sunlight under a tree. These choices will be perfect for you. And the great thing is, most of these are actually cool season crops, which we need to start thinking about putting in very soon. In fact, sneak preview, a week from Sunday, we're going to be talking about planning your fall garden. Yes, it's time for that. And if you guys are first-time gardeners and thought that the entire garden year was focused on summer crops, no way. In fact, my favorite crops are ones that we grow in the fall and spring. So stay tuned for that. But back to the 12 crops that you can grow in partial shade, starting with number 1, basil. Basil loses a little bit of its flavor in the shade, but the upside is you actually get bigger leaves. The leaves grow larger because they're looking for light. So you end up getting a bigger harvest. Basil wants to also flower very quickly, so you need to keep it pinched back all the time because as soon as it flowers, the leaves get bitter. Inevitably, you get behind and it flowers anyway, which is great for the bees, but not so great for us. In the shade, basil will not go to flower as quickly, so there's another upside. Now, just in case your basil is grown in the sun and gets away from you, like I said, it's great for the bees, but I always keep more coming along. And so this coming Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a video on how to create unlimited basil plants to keep your harvest going from now until frost. Okay, now that's 2 sneak peeks I've given you. I think that's probably worth a thumbs up button. And definitely make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notification so you get notified when those 2 videos come out. Number 2 is mint. Now, mint will grow just about anywhere and it thrives in the shade. It won't lose flavor or aroma, but it will get kind of leggy. But all you have to do every once in a while when you see that happening is literally just chop it back. It'll grow back nice and full, and now you have it'll grow back nice and full and you've got a harvest at the same time. Number 3 is cilantro. Now, I can't even grow cilantro past April and not again until October, November. And even on those, borders of that time frame, I have to plant it in the shade because it bolts so quickly. Now, they do have slower to bolt varieties, but why not just grow it in some shade? You've probably got a few shady spots anyway. Fill it up with cilantro. And when it does bolt, save the seeds, and those are coriander. Number 4 is parsley. And parsley is a great herb, either dried or fresh. It can be used in so many types of dishes. Now, I actually don't have any right now. It's more of a cool season herb, but it can be planted on the border of the warm and cool season if it's given some shade. So I'm going to plant some or sow some seed right here in this metal wash tub. And it seriously couldn't be easier. I'm basically just going to sprinkle some seed over the soil, water, and keep it moist. Now, it can take 2 to 3 weeks for parsley to germinate, so just be patient. It will come up eventually. Now, it's usually grown as an annual, but parsley is actually a biennial. So in zone 6 and above, you can actually overwinter it and keep it for 2 seasons. Number 5 and 6 are kale and chard. Now kale and chard do really well in the shade. They are technically cooler season plants, but being in the shade will get them through the summers. Chard is actually related to beets, and it comes in a huge variety of colors. If you grow some of the more vibrant ones, it'll actually brighten up a shady area. Number 7 is leaf lettuce. Not head lettuce. Head lettuce takes a bit more sun to develop those nice big heads. But leaf lettuce will grow just fine, especially moving in or out of the warmer season. I can only grow leaf lettuce here in the sun until about April. If I move it into the shade after that, I can get a couple more months out of it. After that, there's pretty much no chance until about September again, when I can start planting it in shade and then move it into the sun October, November, and for the rest of the winter here. If you live in a cooler summer climate, you may, in the shade, be able to grow lettuce all summer long. Number 8, technically 8 and 9, but I'm lumping them together, is cauliflower and broccoli because they grow very similarly. Broccoli is a really fun crop to grow because you get one nice big broccoli head in the middle, and then when you cut that off, you start developing little baby broccolis all up and down the stalk. And with cauliflower, you end up having to shade the actual cauliflower anyway, because if the sun gets to it, it turns brown or yellow color, and it's just not appetizing, and it can ruin the actual cauliflower head. I did a video on that back in the spring if you want to take a look at it. So why not just go ahead and shade it from the beginning? Number 9 are beets. I think some of the best beets I ever grew were a couple of years ago in the shade, and they only got about 2 hours of sun in the afternoon every day. And I have to say, the leaves were beautiful and tasty. I love beet greens, but the actual beets were the most tender I've ever had, and so I will always grow them in the shade from now on. Number 10 is cabbages. Now, last year I grew cabbage in the shade and in the sun, and the ones that grew in the shade took a little longer to develop a head, but worked just the same. Number 11 is carrots. Carrots do really well in the shade. They don't get as big, and I recommend getting smaller varieties, and they won't grow as fast, but you will get a harvest. So they won't grow as big, but then again, in the stores, you pay more for baby carrots, so... The last one, number 12, is blackberries. Now my blackberries are growing against the north side of this fence and under 2 palm trees. So for at least half the year, they get almost 0 direct sun. Now, it is during the winter when they're kind of dormant that they get the least amount of sun, but still they don't get direct sun until probably May through July, and that's it. And they do just fine. They may produce a little bit less than if they were in full sun, but I just plant more of them because I have a lot more shade that I could fill up. In fact, I'm going to take these once they're dormant and they have a lot of suckers coming up, and I'm going to plant those around the side of the house, and that gets pretty much 12 to 2 sun, but then it also gets afternoon sunlight reflected off of a wall. So they should do really well back there, and I'm going to be able to double or triple my blackberry harvest. So there you go, 12 crops you can grow in partial shade, and a lot of them, again, were cool season. We're coming into the cool season very soon. So again, remember, a week from Sunday, we're going to be doing a video on planning out your fall garden, no matter what climate you live in. Also, I want to give you another sneak preview. That's number 3. Hit that like button. But this Sunday, we're going to be doing, I'm not sure of the number yet, I forget, but summer crops, warm season crops that you can still plant here. It'll be August at that point. So in August, in almost any climate. I'll see you guys then.